Hi. Well, it's another beautiful day, and today I want to talk about us. So, the human being is basically a stimulus response machine. We feel the stimulus and we respond to it. That's what we do, which is nothing wrong with that. That's just the way we're made. Okay? And that's true of all animals and insects. Everything's stimulus and response. That's the whole game. But that stimulus and response is meant to help us survive. But if we don't have problems surviving, then it becomes another trap. You wake up in the morning and you feel that your bladder's full. That's stimulus. You respond. You go take a bathroom break. Okay? And that's just the way it is. Okay? And so that's what we do. And in order to become awakened, we need to still that system down. Okay? For instance, the brain is always going, okay? Because constant stimulus is coming in the brain. The eyes, the ears, the touch, the taste, the smell. It's all coming in at a fantastic rate. Okay? And so that's what's going on. And in order to still, it's helpful to close the eyes. Can't close the ears, so we go to a quiet place. And we try to be still. We try to have our mind be still. Okay? That's the essence of spiritual practice, to get your mind to be still. But that's not necessarily going to make you awakened. So we have to slow down the stimulus and response, okay, and make it not so intense, okay? And that's what it is. It's very intense. So this stimulus response that we have going on inside of us all the time, okay, is put there by our minds, okay, in order to help us survive. We see a lion, we run. Or whatever it is. Okay, saber-toothed cat, we run. Okay? And we have better endurance than the cat, so we'll outrun it. That's the way it is. But in the modern world, we really don't need that, because pretty much we're in a safe place most of the time and we're not, being attacked. So that's why the system was put there, to keep us alive. Okay? But unfortunately, it also has a side effect, and that side effect is to keep you asleep. I know that sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, that's the way it is. Anyway, so that's the situation. Now, when we're trying to awaken, okay, or we're trying to gain spiritual depth, then what we need is less stimulus and less response, okay? We are constantly reacting to things. That's what's going on, okay? And the reason this is a problem is because these reactions take us away from the spiritual, okay? They trap us into what's going on, and then spiritual goes out the window, okay? And that's why it's very hard to get awakened, okay? I mean, I didn't make it that way. It's just the way it is. Now, how do we get out of the trap of stimulus and response? Well, for one thing, try to remember who you are. You are a soul. You are not an animal, which is what human beings are. We're animals. Yes, we have brains and this and that and the other, but we're still basically animals. We have teeth, see? And claws. Anyway, the point is that since you're not an animal, since in reality you are an immortal being, all these animal responses, okay, or reflexes, aren't needed. Okay? We don't need to run away from tigers. We don't need to do whatever we're doing that takes us away from the depths. Okay? And the depths are within you. That's where the formless dimension is. Okay? So that's the situation, that's the problem, and we have to try and accept what is. Because if we don't accept what is, then we're into the reaction stimulus trap. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what it is. Okay? And that's not just your body, it's the whole thing. Okay? Your brain is constantly responding to stimulus because that's what it's meant to do. That's what it was developed for. Okay? By prehistory, by evolution. Okay? And that's fine and everything. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having stimulus and response going on. But in order to get to the point where we can experience our own depths, we need to let go of stimulus and response. And we do this by closing our eyes, going to a quiet place, okay, and so on and so forth. But the problem with that is that sometimes the world intrudes on our quiet place. The world intrudes, and that's just the way it is. And so we come out of our meditation because somebody's yelling at us or because there's a sound, and we lose whatever depth we had been trying to gain. That is the problem. So, if you are accepting of what is, then you need to accept that you are not a person. A person is an animal. That's what we are. We're animals, okay? You can say you're not an animal all you want, but it's not going to change anything, okay? And so that is what the challenge that we have to face is, how to get into the depths without reacting to something out here, okay? And we do that by accepting. Accept that these things are going on. Accept that there's going to be sounds. There's going to be interruptions. There's going to be stuff happening. That is part of life, okay? And you're not going to be able to be in your quiet place with your eyes closed all the time. You have to go out and meet people and do things, okay? And you need to bring your depths with you to those things, because if you don't have the depths when you're dealing with people, then you're going to be caught in the same thing they are, which is stimulus response, okay? And when I say the depths, I mean knowing that your soul is in there, knowing that you are a soul, okay? And by knowing that you are a soul, then you know that you have more to you than just the person, okay? And that is a conviction of faith that you can hold so that you can progress in life, okay? And grow. That's what everything's about, is growing. Whether you wake up or not is not really that important, okay? I mean, you may think it's important, but it's not. What is important is that you grow. And the only way to grow is by overcoming challenges, okay? And that means you have to let go of some things, okay? Like, for instance, stimulus and response. I know that's hard to do because we're constantly bombarded with stimulus all the time, even when we're just laying in bed watching TV. And our brain is ticking over, coming up with responses for that. Even if we don't know it, it's still doing it. And that response is foreshadowing or overshadowing your essentialness, the essential part of who you are, which is your soul. And if you're lost up here in all of this response and stimulus, then you can't find what's down here. That's part of the problem. So, what we have to do is to realize, recognize who we are. We don't have to do anything. You guys, need to recognize who you are so that you're not caught in these things. And even if you do recognize who you are, you're still going to get caught occasionally, but you'll know, I got caught. And you'll be like, okay, I got caught. Okay, I lapsed. My concentration lapsed, or whatever it is, okay? But if you aren't growing, if you aren't proceeding on the spiritual path, then you won't know when you've lost, because the whole time you're lost. That's just the way it is, okay? Now, I know this stuff is hard. I know it's difficult to try and understand what is going on in your brain, but that's pretty much it. You're being given stimulus and you are responding. You're reacting, and you're constantly reacting to all sorts of things. Okay? And what happens is your brain and body sort of go on automatic. Have you ever got in the car to go home and you were driving and the next thing you knew you were home and you weren't quite sure how you got there? It's happened to me many times. It's because you were on automatic. Your body knew what to do and your brain knew what to do, and you didn't have to be present because you could be in your thoughts, you could be in your emotions, you could be in the stimulus response trap, which is what you are. Okay? And the way to overcome this trap is to realize and recognize that this is a trap. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that anybody's wrong here, or anybody's, not doing what they're supposed to do. I get that the world is tough, and we all have to do what we have to do. But more than anything, we have to try and see what is. Okay? Which we cannot do if we are caught in the stimulus response trap. Okay? We can't accept unless we see. That's just the way it is. And so, therefore, we have to try and peer through the veil, okay, which has been drawn over our eyes. And people have talked about the veil through history, but it's there nonetheless. It's a veil that has been drawn over your eyes, and you think that's real. You think the veil is real because that's what everyone thinks, okay? But it's not. It's another part of the way we were, brought up, the way we originally came out of the trees, okay? And the way we started making farms. And, it's all part of the thing. Even the very fact that we evolved, part of that evolution was bringing the veil across our eyes, across our senses, because the world is too much. That's just the way it is. And our mind, okay, which is really the ego, uses that veil to trick us into being who it wants us to be, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to be tricked, go ahead, be tricked. I mean, it's just, it happens anyway. When you're young and you're still learning and growing and all that, okay, all this stuff gets set up in you. And that's part of what life is. Because that's just the way it's been for thousands and thousands of years, okay? And you can't blame anybody for that. That's just part of being human. And so, this trap of the stimulus and response, of the reactions that we're constantly having to everything, is part of the dream that you are in. Now you can say, well, I'm not dreaming, I'm perfectly awake. Which is fine. By all means say that, okay? But you are dreaming because you're caught in the stimulus response. You're caught in a lot of other things too, and I've gone over some of those already in this channel. Now, freedom, okay, is being not caught. Freedom is being not part of the problem, okay? And what is the problem? The problem is that you're in a dream. That's just the way it is, okay? And so, that is the way that the world works, okay? I don't like it working that way. I don't want it to work that way, but that's just the way it works, okay? And being in this dream is part of the way you are, okay? Look, obviously I don't know everything. I'm just trying to give you what I do know, and hopefully you'll start feeling some freedom, okay? We are just animal. We are life forms. I guess people don't like the word. We are life forms. This is a life form. And when this life form dies, okay, which it will, my soul, the immortal part of me, will return to the source, or God, whichever you prefer. Okay? And that is what's going to happen to everybody on earth. There is no heaven, there is no hell. There's being with God and not being with God. That's it. Okay? And part of that is the separation from God. And that separation is another illusion that helps you to stay in the dream. I know that's hard to see or even believe, but that's the way it is. Okay? Now, part of the dream is your responses and the stimulus that's coming into you. Okay? And part of it is the way you experience that stimulus. Okay? And all of that is what is. Okay? You can't change the way you experience stimulus. You can't change the way you react to stimulus. That's just the way it is. But you can not react to stimulus. You cannot accept the stimulus. The stimulus is coming in all the time. And if you allow it to come in, it will keep coming in, okay, for the rest of your life. And you will be caught in the stimulus response trap, okay? And what we want to be is non-reactive to the stimulus. And that's a choice that you have to make, okay? By accepting, okay? I know I've said that word a billion times, but that's just the way it is. So how do we accept the stimulus without being trapped by it? We accept the stimulus by recognizing that it's not us. I mean, the fact is that we are inquisitive and we are possessive. We want to possess and we want to know. And when we know that, when we have that knowledge, then we possess that. That's just the way we are. That's the human condition, okay? Along with a lot of other things, okay? And so when things come into our mind, okay, and our brain, we possess them. We make them a part of who we are, which is fine. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just the way it is, okay? But you don't have to possess the stimulus. You don't have to be in the trap, okay? Just like you don't have to possess your car. You don't have to possess your wife. You don't have to possess your kids. You don't have to possess your house. That's what we do. We possess those things because we make them a part of us, okay? I know it's like, I don't possess my wife or I don't possess my kids. But you do possess the other things in your life. Yes, possessing people is bad. It's just bad for the people. It's bad for you, okay? It brings on the suffering. And so that is the problem. So what we have to do is accept that there is stimulus. Accept that we are going to have a reaction to that stimulus, okay? And by allowing the stimulus, without possessing it. I know that's really hard to understand. I get that, but that's what we have to do, okay? For instance, when knowledge comes into my mind, or into your mind, or into anyone's mind, we learn it, right? That's what we do. And in learning it, we make it our own, right? Because that's what we do with everything. If you learn to dance, you have your own style. If you learn to cut hair, you have your own style. Because you made it your own, right? Or if you're an artist, there's your own style. Look at Van Gogh or Picasso. They had their own style because they made that stimulus into a possession. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with having a style and doing artwork and so on and so forth, but by making everything your own in a way, that also traps you. So what we need to do is allow the stimulus without making it part of us. Okay? I know that sounds weird. You're watching the TV, okay, or a video, and this information is coming in. How can I not make it a part of me? I totally get that, okay? By realizing that you are not a person. That is the key. realizing that you are not a life form. The possession happens in the person. The possession happens in the brain of the person. This brain is not who you are. This brain is just what allows you to live and survive in this world. But the thing that you are is the immortal soul. Okay? And I know a lot of people may say, that's not who I am. And that's fine. Okay? But in order to allow the stimulus and not react to it, we have to accept what is. We have to realize that we are souls. Okay? And that's actually a really simple thing to do because, well, not simple, but it's a matter of identity. What is your identity? When you're growing up, you say to yourself, who am I? What am I? What's going on with me? And you feel confused. And so maybe you try and find yourself. Okay? But what you find is not you, because you are a soul. Because it's really hard to find your soul by yourself. Okay? You need instruction. And that's what I'm here for. So, every day we receive this stimulus on a constant basis. And if we don't allow it, but not possess it, then we are going to be trapped by it. Now, you can start really simply, okay, by entering your body's energy field, your chi, or by breathing, okay, and trying to not think, because thinking is part of the response system, okay? By paying attention to one thing that isn't your thoughts, then the thoughts turn off. That's what happens. Okay? And as the thoughts turn off, once they can turn off again, and eventually the thoughts will turn off. Most of the time. Okay? So it's a process. It's not an easy process, but it is a process of accepting what is. Instead of fighting against that. Okay? And I know it's hard to try and figure out everything that's going on in your life, and I get that, but your life is a construct. You are life. You don't have life. You are life. Okay? And if you think you have life, you possess life, which in a way you do, because you are life. Okay? But you can't possess what you are. That's just, it doesn't work. And by believing that you have a life, believing that you have a timeline that goes back into the past and forward into the future, is another way of being trapped. And, that's just the way it is. And this stimulus response trap and all the other traps that I've told you about are all interconnected, like a web. Okay? That keep you into or part of the dream. Okay? Keep you under the illusion of separateness. Keep you under the illusion of time. Okay? That's what all this stuff does. Because that's how it keeps you safe. Safety. That's important, isn't it? Everybody loves safety. But safety is another trap. Because if you need to be safe, then you need to not be going into the unknown. And the only way to find your soul is to go into the unknown. So being safe, while it's good and all, and I mean, obviously you need to be safe from robbers and bad people, okay? But the safety of your own mind, okay, is the problem. By being safe within your own circumference, by being safe, you are denying what's outside of your circumference, okay? So safety is a trap. And as long as you are feeling safe, okay, inside your mind, okay, not necessarily from outside invaders or whatever, then you cannot awaken from the dream, because you have to delve the depths, which isn't safe. It's going into the unknown, which I've talked about before. So this safety that we all prize, and we do prize it, don't we? That's what we do, is part of the problem. Because we want to be safe, don't we? I know I've wanted to be safe throughout my life, okay? And I put locks on my doors and locks on my car and everything else. Obviously, I didn't put them there. Whoever rented me the house put them there. And whoever sold me the car put them there. But the point is, I used them because I was afraid of the unknown. And the unknown can be a marauder coming to rape my wife and kill my kids, and me too. Or it can be something else. And by fearing the unknown, okay, we are putting ourselves in the trap, okay? And this trap that we have, there's so many little traps that we can be in, is keeping us from awakening. And the ego doesn't want you to awaken. The ego wants you to stay just the way you are, because it can control you just the way you are. I know, isn't that crazy? But that's what it wants. It wants to be able to control you so that it can feel big, okay? And that's it. It doesn't have any other ulterior motives beyond that. And if it can't make you feel big, it'll make you feel small or bad. So, this is the situation that we're in. In order to feel the presence of the Lord in your life, not like in church where you sing psalms and pray to God and all that. I mean, really have God with you, okay? You can feel him or her. Well, really, God doesn't have a sex, so I guess I shouldn't say either of those. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that these things, okay, which are part of the traps of the dream, like separation, like time, like safety, okay, are something you need to overcome. You need to overcome your fear. I know that's hard, but if you realize that what you're afraid of is binding you, it's holding on to you, okay? I know this is difficult to sort of see, but that's the way it is. Anyway, so the stimulus response system in your brain, in your mind, is constantly working, okay? And the only way to stop it is to stop the stimulus to some extent. And we can do that by stopping the thoughts, okay? You can't react if you can't think. That's just the way it is, okay? And if you're not reacting, then the stimulus becomes less important. It fades, okay, in importance. And what becomes more important is the connection with your soul, because that is really who you are. And when you connect with your soul, that's when you can feel God, okay? God is in a different dimension. He's in the formless dimension. And that is where your soul is too, though it's also in you. It's really hard to understand these dimensional things, but that's just the way it is. Now, what do we need to do? We need to accept that these stimulus are going to keep coming. And by allowing the stimulus, okay, not possessing it, we can be free of it to some extent. Obviously, stimulus is going to keep coming, but we can be free of our reactions. These reactions keep us in the trap. And that's pretty much it. I hope that this was instructive, and I love you all, as I've said before, because you're me. We're all part of one thing, and that thing is God. And if we just try and find that one thing, okay, which we can, then all will be well. We can get rid of unhappiness. We can get rid of bad feelings in our life and live the best life that we can. But as long as we are stuck in the trap of the senses, in the trap of the stimulus and the response, in the trap of time and separation, which is keeping us down. Okay? That's what it's doing. These things, you may think, oh, well, you may think a lot of things. But acceptance is what it's all about. And allowing things without possessing them. Allowing things to come in and then go out. Like life forms. They rise up and they fade out. Like thoughts. They rise up and they fade out. Stimulus can be the same way. Well, I guess that's bad enough for this talk. I love you all, and I hope you have a great life.